Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with June's exceptional story, Reunion. I think we only have one more of the prince's wishes to go, so we're going to jump straight in there. We have to escort the prince to a honey den. The prince wishes to taste prisoner's honey. You know a place where this might be achieved. Vale Garden is speckled with honey dens, like mushrooms after rain, but one has to know where to look. You know of a small den near the Singing Mandrake. The quality of the honey is passable, but the quality of the clientele is evident in their having dressed up to attend a honey den. Enter the Red Hart. The den masquerades as a public house, though its fixtures have long been replaced with cushions, soft furnishings, and a steady flow of syrup. Where the bar once stood is an orange silk curtain. Behind that is a stairwell leading to the cellars, which used to store ale. Moving aside another curtain, you enter the inner sanctum, announced by a sudden, heady waft of incense. Those returning from dreams languish amidst cushions of a tolerable quality. A deacon laughs with an actress curled beneath an archway. A clayman circulates with a tray stacked with gilded pots of honey. No one pays either of you the slightest heed. There is only one temptation here, and its hold is all-consuming. The clayman leaves you to make your own arrangements. The lamplight burns fiercely in the alcoves. The incense clings to your clothes and your nostrils. Beside you, the prince watches agog as a fashionable lady imbibes deeply of honey, spilling it onto her modish dress and making her lips golden. And then she is gone, disappeared into honey dreams. The prince lets out an intake of breath. "Bloody hell," he says. He glances at the door, his posture stiffening. So now we have a choice. We can either go elsewhere, the prince does not seem at ease. Perhaps a quieter evening is best, or we can remain. The prince has a first-timer's nerves. He requested a visit to a honey den. He should see it through. Now, out of pure curiosity, I'm going to continue and remain here. I'm not sure if this is going to have negative effects on the outcome, but there's one way to find out. The prince gives you a worried look, but he does not object as you find a couch on which to sit. His coat, obviously made from surface velvet, draws eyes inevitably, but most are too absorbed with honey to pay any heed. The proprietor arrives, first with spiced milk and then with honey. She does not make any indication that partaking is compulsory. Gradually, the prince begins to relax. The prince's gaze is fixed on the honey. Lamplight gilds the rose filigreed glasses in which it is contained, so that both form and contents glimmer in deep gold. The colour is reflected in Prince Albert Victor's pale eyes. At last, he breaks his concentration. "Will you guide me?" he asks. "In dreams, I fear I do not know the way." Coughs, embarrassed at the admittance. Let's act as a guide. Honey may be shared, dreams commingled. Or we can offer no such, but honey dreams are a private affair. Perhaps he ought to experience his alone. Let's act as a guide. The prince's relief is palpable. He leans back onto the couch, loosening his collar. He calls the clayman for more wine, and engages in a lengthy discourse with him on the nature and properties of clay. When he hears of polythreme, the prince grows melancholy. It seems sad to be so far from home. To not be able to make a life where you grew, he murmurs. Like any good servant, the clay man reveals nothing of his opinion. He merely thanks the prince and returns to the other guests. The honey sits on a tray between the two of you unobtrusively, as though waiting to be taken. The prince reaches for his rose cup of honey. He pours it onto a large silver spoon and raises it to you. "To my very own Virgil," he says. And then, not waiting for further instruction, slaps it back. For a moment, his lips shine golden, with thick drops of honey. And then, he is gone. Well, we better take the honey too. Enter the is not. It is, after all, why one comes to a honey den. Here we go to Parabola. The sweet honey melts on your tongue, like a syrupy snowfall. Your ears fill with the solemn drone of bees. You fade from the honey den couch. Your eyes open on an amber glade beneath a cosmogon sun. Mellow confieres bow before a sweet breeze. You are in Parabola, the is not kingdom of dream. You enter the is not, the kingdom behind the mirrors. The prince is ahead, his brown hair almost red in the Parabolan sun. He walks in his own dream, ahead of you. Let's guide the prince as we promised. You guide the prince away from shadows where red shapes contort and towards brighter paths. The prince's dream grows honeyed gold. He walks, burnished, through pleasant arcades and ordered gardens. He strides through sunlight, a smile on his face. He is not alone. Friends, admirers, even a lover have their place in the prince's pleasure palace. There is discourse over coffee, games of croquet, and cards in the garden. And then supper, tables laden with confectionaries and innocent decadence. The prince dines on sugared almonds, as many as he wishes. Afterwards, the prince meets his lover in the garden, where the moon shines brightest. The prince kisses his lover upon his lips, and then withdraws. It is only a kiss, but the expression on Albert Victor's face is that of sweetest bliss. He wears it still when you wake, side by side upon the couch. He shakes his head as he rises, as though brushing away the dream. The hour grows late. It is time to leave. The prince has dreamed of that which he has not in his waking life. But the princess waits at the Westminster. We go back to the Westminster, the north bank of the Stone River. And let's meet Princess Alexandra with Albert Victor and try and explain how we ended up in a honey den. Don't worry, I won't jeopardize your reward. Yep, said that every time. The princess greets you carefully. She does not offer you her hand to kiss, perhaps because it is so weighed down with rings. Okay, let's tell the truth. How bad can this go? Alexandra's nose wrinkles. You went where? He pauses for a moment and considers. She lets out a little laugh. Oh, honey, you say. I'm sure honey is a harmless vice. What could I know of it? Her laughter does not reach her eyes. Whee. Perfectly fine. Right. We can ask her a question here. I think this is the last question we can ask. And we have a choice between the surface or the royal family. Let's ask about the surface. What is her life like above? The princess looks at the prince and gives him a radiant smile. Oh, you are happy on the surface? He pauses and frowns. I don't wish to be insensitive. I'm sure life down here has its advantages, but we are looked after. Our cares are few. We have salons and entertainments, and we do not lack for friends. He tells you of the parade of instructors who arrive daily to ensure her son is kept abreast of cultural, fashionable, and political developments. Her smile falters only a fraction when you ask what all of his education is in aid of. The prince gives you a warning look as your interview comes to a close. The princess falls silent. Eventually, she reaches for a bell. You are dismissed. I don't think that went as well as we'd hoped. It's promenade with the prince. The visit to the princess being over with, the evening is your own. We went to the embassy. We went to the Labyrinth of Tigers. You haven't spent time in court. I don't really want to increase the prince's red temptations, because red honey is terrible stuff. Profitable though, if you watch my Sunless Seas playthrough. Let's go with an evening at court. The Empress dwells in seclusion. Her family do not make public appearances, but court life continues as best it can. The music is somber, the lighting dimmed. Various dull luminaries circulate in the ballroom, waltzing in soft-soled shoes on muffled carpets so as not to offend the Empress's eardrums, wherever he may be. In these solemn rooms, the veteran Privy Councillor holds court. He declared himself intrigued by the prince. Does the prince know who he resembles? There is a certain familiarity to his face. The prince smiles politely as the Privy Councillor piles him in with court gossip. All of it distasteful. Albert Victor, quiet as you leave, his capacity for conversation entirely drained. And here is the last night in London. The Westminster is shrouded in fog tonight. Lights stream from its upper windows like the beacon of a lighthouse at sea. Inside, the air is hushed. The stairs to the princess's suite are empty of guests. There is a heaviness in the air, as though London was muffled somehow. When the bells strike midnight at St. Fiacre's, it is an intrusion upon the stillness. And we can enter the princess's suite. Alexandra waits for one last report. Princess Alexandra is wrapped in muslin and scarves. Her rings glitter in the candlelight, while at her feet her cases stand packed. She gives you and her son a tight smile. "I'm out for dinner. The hour of my doom is at hand," she says, pausing to gaze out of the window in a pose of forlorn resignation. Prince Albert Victor sighs. "At least the Empress wants to see you, Mother. And I'm sure you'll survive an evening. Meanwhile, we'll have to see to our entertainments." He gives you an unexpected wink. You will attend dinner with the captivating princess while Alexandra attends to her own affairs. Alexandra regards her son, a frown forming on her forehead. "What do you have planned for this evening?" He looks at you. Prince Albert shoots you a quick glance, almost imperceptibly. He shakes his head. "I think I'm going to tell the truth. You too will be dining at the Shuttered Palace, but in the company of the captivating princess." Princess Alexandra's smile remains fixed. "Really?" he says. "I've not heard of her. Bertie had so many sisters, it was hard to keep track." He closes his suitcase with a harsh clip. "Do remember, our carriage is first thing next morning, my darling." She leans in to kiss her son on his bristled cheek and whispers to him. Perhaps she has misjudged how close you stand. Perhaps she does not care if you hear. I have descended to greater depths before to save you. I will not hesitate to do so again. Then the smile is fixed back on. First thing, your reward will be waiting then, my dear, she says to you by way of dismissal. Well, she knows everything, and she knows that with the activities of tonight. A carriage in royal livery waits outside the Westminster. A haunted-looking footman opens the door for you both to step inside. The glass in the windows is smoky and obscure. The rolling fog outside makes it seem as though the world has diminished to just this carriage, with you and the prince inside it. The prince is preoccupied. I don't know much about the rest of my family. What became of them after the fall? I suppose I shall find out. His tone is unconcerned. His hands tremble in his lap. He looks at you as though expecting an answer. We have three options. Answer with what little you know. There are rumours concerning the activities of the royal family. Revels involving a scarlet-hued honey conducted in the palace cellars. We can answer what you know. Whatever they are now, they are not as they were. Or we can lie. You've heard very little at all. Nothing that ought to trouble him. Let's answer with what little you know. Prince Albert Victor considers for a moment. Bloody hell, he says. How awful for them. I hope they're better now. I suppose it explains why they don't make public appearances. He sits, contemplative, silence for a moment. My aunt must have got better, though. She is out and about, he nods, reassuring himself. If she got better, so can they. Oh, my dear fellow. The carriage arrives at the palace and pauses while gates are opened and hooded lanterns are lit. But once inside the grounds, where normally one would get out and walk, the carriage remains in motion. Through the dim light, you see that you are being drawn along a boulevard and through another set of iron gates. The carriage comes to a complete stop in the shaded garden, its clinging ivy and wisteria bushes long since dead. A footman approaches, bearing a silver candle in a dish. Descending from the carriage, the footman and his little candle lead you to a series of stone stairs. They are built into the brick wall of the palace and disappear into a dark crevice like a waiting mouth. The prince pauses on the threshold and takes a deep breath. I wonder what she'll make of me, he says quietly. Then, quick as a flash, he's reapplied his smile and is following you into the dark. You walk for a long time in silence through dripping stone chambers. At last, you reach a simple wooden door. The footman turns a key in the lock and then leaves. His hurried footsteps echo long after he has vanished. So we are beneath the shuttered palace, far beneath. There is a long dining hall beyond the door. Candles dance in 100 silver sconces. There is a single table, long as a coffin. Various foodstuffs lie on pewter platters. Meats, tomatoes, radishes, and broths of onion and pepper. At the side, grapes, plums, marinara sauce, and rich, sinful wines. There are several high-backed chairs, but only one is occupied. The captivating princess in an emerald gown bids you both to sit. As you do so, the prince, tongue-tied, looks to you for conversational assistance. So we can ask about the others. The princess has many brothers and sisters. The prince's aunts and uncles. Where are they now? The captivating princess gives you an indulgent glance before turning her attention to her nephew. I am sorry, they are not here. Some I could not find, others were too ashamed to attend. She skewers something small and red on her fork. There is a crack, and then an extended crunch. Ashamed! They did not think themselves in suitable condition to meet you. Though really, they are well advanced, comparatively. She dabs at her lips with a napkin. Silly, really. Why should the butterfly be ashamed to look at the caterpillar? Let's ask about her invitation. Her nephew is here, as requested. What does she want with him? The princess recommends the prince try the steak washed down with the wine. He samples eagerly. Then he pales, his chewing loud and evidently regretful. Shaking hands, reach for the wine. While he is thus occupied, the captivating princess focuses on you. The tragedy of my family is that we were severed by the fall. So many branches torn away from us. She takes a delicate sip of her glass. The prince, of course, was born in London. I wish to see the end of his development. She surveys him critically. What a sturdy thing, is he? Okay, dine with the captivating princess. This was why you were invited, after all. As you sample dishes, fresh ones are swapped in. Attentive servants emerge from the shadows like smoke. Fried mushrooms in a thick sauce. Boned fish, salty from the sea. White wine made from an extremely rare vintage of Greyfields. The prince is served the same. The captivating princess watches him avidly. The prince attacks his dish with relish. Between mouthfuls of piquant mushroom, he compliments the princess's kitchen. This is the best meal I've ever had. The piquancy, the taste of soil and salt, the neathiness of it. The princess makes an attempt at a pleasant expression. At last, the dishes are cleared away. New glasses are brought. The red wine, thick as gravy, is poured. The captivating princess leans back in her seat, eyes alive with reflected candlelight. Wiping his mouth, Prince Albert Victor clears his throat. Let's listen to the prince. It looks like, for the first time this evening, he's going to engage in something more than small talk. May I just say how happy I was to receive your invitation, he begins, taking another sip of wine for courage. Though I have long imagined my family to actually see your poise, your dignity, your grace, he continues in this vein. The captivating princess regards him with amusement, but it rapidly changes to weary boredom. She is surprisingly restrained. It is a few minutes before she entirely loses patience and interrupts him. Yes, you're nothing like me, she says curtly. Albert Victor looks crestfallen. You're not here for you to flatter me. I get that everywhere I please. I wanted to know what had been retained. The princess waves a hand. A servant emerges, trembling, with a vial of honey. It resembles prisoner's honey in everything but its hue. The red of a cardinal's robes. As a babe in arms, you fed on this like milk. Princess's smile is like a knife, a flash in the gloom. To my mind, it is the only substance suitable for a proper royal upbringing. She gestures to the servant to bring it to the prince. I wonder what would happen if you were to become reacquainted. I'm going to warn the prince here, but we could encourage the prince. Red honey is his birthright. We should sample it again, or we could warn the prince. That she offers it is reason enough to shun the red honey. I'm going to warn the prince because red honey's not good. The prince doesn't seem to be listening, his eyes fixed on the slim, filigreed vial. Across the table, the princess drums her fingers upon her knife. You're right, he says, his voice distant. I've survived so long without it. I don't think I want to become otherwise than I am." He sounds a little surprised at his revelation. Across the table, the princess' smile falls like a guillotine blade. The captivating princess sighs, already bored. "Really, it's a great honour. In Byzantium I hear the truly special princes were born in a special chamber of the palace. They were said to be born to the purple because of the hue of the room." She glances at the prince, her tone disappointed. "You were to be born to the scarlet, and you will have what you are owed." She smirks slightly. "Of course, I wanted to be sure. Surfaces have so little appetite for greatness, so I put honey in your wine. You should be feeling the effects any time now." She leans forward in her seat, eyes alight with curiosity. God damn it, he's been drugged. I kind of felt there was going to be no way past this. Let's examine your glass. Has the princess filled your cup with honey too? The princess gives you a cheerful nod. But of course, it would have been a bother to try and guess which glass he'd drink from. She gives you an encouraging look. "Consider it an honour. Consider it my gift. You'll have a splendid time. Probably." She peers at you. "Ah, it's starting." Your vision blurs for a minute. The room is spilling away like rain washing away all the colour from a painting on the cobbles. You open your eyes and you are not where you were. The scent of honey is still in your nose. You can taste it on your lips. You stand amidst a series of opulent, plush chambers marked with many doors. Somewhere, someone is screaming for you to stop. This is someone's red honey dream. Whose? Memories of the palace mingle and spool together in the red tangle. Candles flicker in the sconces. Doors yawn and creak. Whispers and laughter, rich as wine, rustle around corners. Sometimes before you, sometimes behind. The scent of honey is as overpowering as that of burned hair. Footsteps approach. A party is careening down the corridor towards you, boisterous and caviting. Somewhere, someone is pleading with you. A chorus of voices, all asking you to stop. Let's observe from afar. We'd have two options. We can join the procession or we can observe from afar. Find a hiding place. Those curtains, perhaps, behind the couch. Or we can join the procession. Become as one with the dance. Link your arms with the dancers. Let's observe from afar. You hid in the curtains. Felt your hot breath close. You can smell the wine spilled on the carpet. The smell raises your gorge. The room is foul. There is vomit out there too. The dancers do not see it. They wade through it. Fine clothes trailing in the liquid. Lips red with honey. They drip with perspiration. So hot is the room. So long have they danced. They stick their fingers in vials and pots and sup greedily, like bees at nectar. Some do not partake. They wear servants' caps. Those are flung to and fro among the company. After some time, they are gone. Cavorting around the next corridor, their music can be heard still, far behind. The dream snatches you away. Well, I guess we all join the procession. Come as one with the dance. Link your arms with the dancers. It is only a memory. As the dancers lean in close, do you feel their breath, sweet and sickly, on your skin? They whirl you around as they raise banners and tapestries and cavort in the corridors. Your tiara keeps you safe. They think you are as they. Some sip honey like wine and disappear. Others fall in the rotting carpet, ruined by spilled fluids. Dresses and trains trail in the mire, and they pull you along after them. My tiara keeps me safe. Are we in the memory of Alexandra? You dance as never before, fast a firefly among these rotting moths. They are so entranced that they back away, spilling into the next corridor. And away. You have brought some time as the dream spins you away. So now we can attempt a rescue, or we can watch from the shadows. Who are we trying to rescue here? Well, we may as well go in, fists are swinging. Do not stay idle. Do not let the cage door shut. You burst from the dead bushes, armed only with your fury that they are doing this to your old retainers. That woman was once their favourite nanny, and now they cage her and daub her ears with honey. Another paints her expression, capturing the moment with oil and canvas as they open the hive. There are too many of them, but they have not grown used to their changes yet. They stumble and loll. Flesh sloughs like damp clay. The scent of honey and blood both spill liberally when they are torn, drives them wild. They disappear, unamazed. The cage opens. You do what you can before the dream carries you away. Okay, so we're in the palace cellars, I guess, and they get the red honey by milking their servants, their old servants. So you steal their dreams? Against their will? Kind of how red honey works from what I've learned in Sunless Seas. How unpleasant. Oh dear. We can run. There is a door ahead. One more memory in this red palace. It does not open. It has been locked and barred from the other side. Wherever your Albert Victor is, it is beyond this door, sealed away from you. There is a shadow behind you. It is twisted and too long, its limbs splayed like a Swiss Army knife. Some of those limbs are long. They brush you as they pass by, cold as frost. They reach the door and pull it open. Dust and honey rises from the carpet. The shadow groans. A wet gargle. Is it words? Find him? Or are you just hearing sense in a mere noise of pain? The air is strong with honey, wine and worse. Your dress is red at the hem from trailing through the sodden carpets. Sickly smells come from mushrooms growing on the floor. A woman's voice is whispering somewhere. Please, no, she says. Her voice has an accent. German? Is it your own voice? You are pleading. Let's look around. Is Prince Albert Victor here? He is not here, yet you feel him everywhere. His presence, his breath, the pulse of his heart. You walk in the same place, together but separate. What you see, so does he. This room was beautiful once. A lavish ballroom open to the gardens. Its occupants were beautiful too, once. Now they watch with limpid eyes, or too many eyes, or none at all. One has a hand upon your arm. The flesh is brittle, the bones shift beneath the skin. There is a thud. A diamond has fallen from your fingers. It twinkles in the slime of the carpet before it is trodden underfoot. Your limbs are stiff from the bars. Your skin is dry from the attentions of the bees. The man beside you stops to adjust your face with a tenderness that is both familiar and wretched for it. He powders your nose, your skin. Mustn't scare him, he rasps. Yes, you will see him now. No, 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 stop, my darling, stop. Your family are leading you to a door. You know there is a cradle within. Your baby smiles up at you as they bring you to him. He has all of his teeth. Most are stained in crimson red. There you are, your baby says with impatience. His expression is old. His voice, preternaturally mature. He struggles to articulate some of the more complex sounds, but the meaning is clear. I have been waiting for far too long. I have quite exhausted the servants, he pouts. They have such mundane lives. I thought I would expire from boredom. There are murmurs from the family. Some are already slurping on the honey made from you. You hear them whisper together, discussing the experiences they've had, the quality of the sensations drawn from you. Your husband shushes them. He reaches into the cradle, too small for such a large boy. Your son gurgles happily as his father lifts him and places him in your arms. You have paid your price, but now, this is your prize. The infant prince rakes one hand through your hair. Frustrated, he begins to wail. They keep putting masks on grandfather. Grandmother thinks it will restore him, but there's nothing behind the mask. They rot on top of each other. His face is a grave. There is no future here. The rest is lost in wet snuffling that soaks your muslin through. The family parts like a sea as you carry your son out. Hungry eyes follow you, eager for more. Only your husband keeps them back. His eyes follow you as the doors close behind them, all for good. Away. The memory begins to recede. Already it is being forgotten. You wake. So, that's the birth of the prince, I guess, which kind of, confirms we're Alexandra. This is about the Emperor's husband, whose name I can't remember right now. Albert? I think I might just have Albert in my head, but it may be that. The one who is eternally asleep. We've woken up, I guess. The memories are at an end. The honey drips from your lips like the dregs of wine. Your glass is empty. The prince is pale, his chest heaving. The captivating princess stands from the table. Her eyes are fixed on her nephew. What could the princess want? Why bring these memories to the prince? The captivating princess glances at you with a flicker of interest. From you, nothing. Yet. She sighs as though irritated at having to explain herself. What I want is the most reasonable thing imaginable, the princess says languidly. I wish for my nephew to remain with me and to become what he ought to be. A frown disturbs her face. The bargain made with my brother's wife was silly. The memories we received were tiresome. Balls and palaces and, oh, wasn't I lovely in 1845? Risible. I doubt we'll get anything better this time, even if the harvesting was only a pretext for the visit. The princess turns her attention to her nephew, her expression avid. The change imposed by the red honey was a gift, as it was to me. The rest of our family proved inadequate to the wonders on offer. They grew indulgent, lazy. He had potential to be more, as am I. He should have grown up here, with me. He places a hand upon her nephew's shoulder. He shivers, does not remove it. He was not meant for the surface life, any more than I was. Captivating princess stands from her table, her eyes fixed on her nephew. He remembers what he was now, who he was, and could be again, with time and tutelage, with guidance. The princess tilts her head. Or would you have him be less than he could be, have him reject his own nature? The princess lowers her gaze. The next words are slow as though spoken through honey. We are not like you. It is cruel to try to make us so. And She hesitates for a moment. Her last words are hurried. This is not a gift that should be borne alone. Well, let's listen to the prince. What does he want, now that you have returned from the honey dream? Prince Albert Victor sits at the table, his head in his hands. He is breathing heavily. It's not fair, the princess says. He's so wet, weak. She stands, draws herself up to her full height. So inadequate. From nearby, you can hear the sound of silk on stone, the clang of a cage door, the thud of running feet drawing closer. A door bursts open. Queasy gaslight spills into the undercroft. Princess Alexandra stumbles into the room, her eyes wild, her neck stickly with honey still trickling from her ears. "My son," she says. "I'm here for my son." The princess gives Alexandra a pitying look. "But he has already made his choice, the one he was born to." Captivating princess frowns as she regards the unsteady Princess of Denmark. "How did you manage to escape?" Alexandra does not reply. Her wedding band catches the candlelight from the dining table. She quickly hides it behind her back. There is a crash. Both princesses break their gaze. Prince Albert Victor has pulled himself up from his chair. His eyes are fixed on his mother. For once, he does appear certain. Console the prince. What will he do? "You're right to be worried, Mama," he says. "This was all a trap. Your harvesting was just an excuse to get us here. To get me here. To show me what I am." His voice breaks just a little. Alexandra runs forward, almost tripping on her torn gown. The prince hesitates for just a moment before embracing her. "No," Alexandra says, her voice firm. "What was done to you?" She turns to the captivating princess, her powdered face a mask of hatred. "This ends the agreement. You will have no more honey from me, and unless you want German armies crawling into this pit, we will be leaving." The captivating princess's attention, however, is fixed on Albert Victor, slumped in his mother's arms. Her expression is intense, avid. Then she looks away. "Weak," she says. She rises from the table and leaves the room without another word. Tentatively, the three of you make your way back through the cellars. "We'll see you in the morning," Alexandra says, exhausted, leading her son out of the palace once again. Union, a carriage to take you away. A newly polished carriage waits outside the Westminster. The lamps on its body gild the morning fog. A footman in the livery of the hotel waits patiently beside the door. She gives you a nod as she sees you. She is expecting you. Let's greet the prince. He steps out from the carriage, smoking an ostentatious pipe. He withdraws the pipe and begins to cough. Pipe smoke drifts away in the fog. "Dashed hideous thing," the prince says when he's recovered. "But I wanted something to remind me of London. Besides, the letters I intend to receive from you, of course." He gives you a nervous grin. "She's so worried about me staying, it's as if I'll just float away the second she's not looking," he laughs. "Perhaps I should tie lead weights to my shoes, if she relaxes. But she needn't fear." He looks around him wistfully as at the city, half lost to shadow and fog. "But what an adventure it's been. I won't forget it, nor your part in it. This place isn't meant for me, nor I for it, but I'd rather have found that out for myself than always wondered." He nods, as though to himself, and reaches out to shake your hand. You walk away from the carriage as the prince enters the carriage. You hear the rattle of its wheels behind you as it makes for other realms in sunlit uplands far away. And that is the end of this exceptional story. I feel that there are a lot of potential paths for that one, at least 3 with the temptations of honey, enchantment and disenchantment, so I am incredibly interested to find out what the other endings are. I feel that is the best ending for me personally. Just stay away from Fallen London. This place is bad. If you But I am going to thank you all very much for being here. This has been a very long episode, my. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, we'll see you next time.